All right, what is going on, everybody? Today we are talking about the mass exodus from California, from San Diego. Is it happening and where are people going? And I have a very special guest to bring on to talk about this topic, the real Jeremy Knight from Austin, Texas. How you doing today, my friend? About this topic.
Very well. Hold on. I got multiple things going on.
I'm just muting him real quick because we have some technical difficulties here. Jeremy, how we looking? I'm just muting him real quick because we have.
All right, sorry about that. I was like 19 places, so I can see me on Facebook. So we're good.
All right, we look good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think we're good to go. So Jeremy, let's talk about this. You started in San Diego, if I get the timeline correct. You started in San Diego. You left. When did you leave San Diego?
I left 2013, very beginning of 2013. I made the migration, the great migration to Texas.
So if I'm looking at this timeline correctly, you started the migration is kind of what I'm seeing. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, some people have always said I'm ahead of my time. So I was just, I saw the writing on the wall. I think that was at the time too in San Diego or California. They were raising. It was literally that time they were raising the income tax. I think it was from like 9 to 11%, or maybe it was 7 to 9%, whatever it was that time. And I was like, I'm out of here. And so literally right after that, a whole wave came with me. So I was the captain of that ship. I'm here now and super happy to be here.
I think you were the one that brought Joe Rogan over there is probably what happened. And then everyone else just flooded in after.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some NDAs signed on that. So I can't say whether I was or wasn't the person to help him find a house, but there was definitely some NDAs signed.
Well, I'm really looking forward to, talk a little bit about your experiences moving from California, why you left, but also you now are in Austin and you are one of the top relocation guides. You're a real estate agent out there. You have a Moving to Austin channel on YouTube. So you work with a lot of people moving out there as well. So we're going to get some hands-on experience from you personally. And then we're also going to kind of dive into the details on how many people are actually leaving California. Where are they going? Is this kind of just like played up a lot bigger than it actually is? We got some funny comments coming in here. So if you are watching us, let us know where you're watching from. And if you moved from California or you considered moving from California, I'd love to hear all that in the comments. All right, let's get started here. Jeremy, do you think that this whole mass exodus from California is blown out of proportion?
So being in Texas and seeing who's moving to Texas, I don't think it's necessarily blown out of proportion. Is it made bigger than it is? Probably. But I would say a lot of my clients, and it could be too, because I have, I've talked about in some of my videos, my experience as far as moving from and what it's like to move from California to Texas. So I work with a lot of clients in that field as it is. I would say of the clients that come to me, in fact, I have data to back this up, which I don't have on me, but I have a majority of the people that are leaving California for Austin specifically, and these numbers are now hard numbers, are from California, are from actually San Diego and Southern California. And then it goes up the list, goes up to Washington, D.C., not Washington, D.C., but Washington State, Seattle, and then back to Northern California is like number 5. So, and then Illinois is in there as well. So there's a pretty good migration out of California. A lot of the people from the Bay Area, I find, end up going a little bit further outside the Bay Area and stay in California. So, yeah, I mean, is there a lot of people moving from California? Yes. On average, every year in Austin, we see about 56,000 people move to Austin. So it's about 3% growth every year. Last 2020, we saw that number go from average of 56 to about 65. In 2021 was about almost 75,000. So it is considerably higher. We went from a net inbound of like 148 people a day. Now it's 185. So, or 184. So yeah, there's still a lot of people moving here. Is it blown out of proportion and sensationalized? Yes. But there are a lot of people moving out this way.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt there's a lot of people moving out to Austin. I was starting to look at some of this data. So like Redfin has really good information, and this isn't necessarily how many people are moving, but they're utilizing how many people are looking on their site in certain areas from other areas and where they're looking to relocate to. And so it's pretty interesting that you can dive into all of this stuff. So, people moving from San Diego, where, San Diego specifically. So we're also kind of talking about California, and we're talking about San Diego specifically, but from San Diego, majority of people moving from San Diego are staying in the state. They're going to Los Angeles, the Bay Area, and then throughout the rest of California. But we still do have a good amount of people going to Seattle, Phoenix, Dallas. If you just do an out-of-state filter here, you can see that Austin definitely hits the list as well. What's really interesting is if you put Austin in here we put Austin as the destination. Let's see. So this will show you right here, Bay Area. So the number one place people are moving from to go to Austin is not within Texas, which is where it is like most states and most cities. The number one place is the Bay Area. Number two place is Los Angeles. So there's no doubt, you're right. People are moving to Austin and they're moving from other areas.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, so I just met with the chief economist for one of the largest title companies out here yesterday, and so his numbers were a little bit different than what that just showed. And I don't have those slides yet, but number one moving to Austin was primarily San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. But out of state, California was number one, Illinois was number two. So there were both, and then number two was Washington State, and then Illinois. So now I've put all my marketing dollars into those three areas.
Your marketing dollars?
Okay, I pay zero in marketing. I'm just kidding.
I know, that was a surprise for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So why would you say people are moving to Austin specifically?
All right, I'll tell you why I moved to Austin specifically, and I think it might resonate with a lot of people. So when I lived in Southern California, specifically San Diego, there's a certain vibe there, right? It's just the vibe. I mean, however you want to call it, how it feels, how it feels. So there's a certain vibe of San Diego. When I visited Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and then Austin, the vibe was much closer in Austin. So the way people are in Austin, it's Texas as a whole, but everybody's really, really nice here for the most part. And so when you get here, it's almost uncomfortable for most people moving from California how nice people are. A prime example, my neighbor, like the first 2 weeks I lived here, I was like, this is weird. Like, it's weird how nice people are. This is not right. But my neighbor actually moved in. I helped him buy a house, and he asked me to help him load up something and take it. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I helped him out. He's like, can I tell you something? Like, is it me or are people just freakishly nice? And I started laughing, like, yeah. So the vibe in Austin is the vibe in Austin. And I think it's more of that kind of like obviously, whatever you want to call it, blue or whatever, but that is a thing. But I feel like when you come here, it's a very chill vibe overall. It's obviously a little more of that hippie-ish vibe, but it's hard to explain. It's hill country. It's beautiful. There's a lot of, like, if you go to Dallas, like, it's flat for the most part. Houston is atrocious. I know Katie Day and I, good friends who lives in Houston, we give each other crap about Houston all the time. Houston is the last place on earth I'd move to, second to Bakersfield, California. Like, those two, and which third would be Tucson. I lived in Phoenix. So the areas I won't move to are Houston, Tucson, and Bakersfield. So I don't know. It's all of those things combined. It's a really special place overall. I mean, especially the problem I think most people have is they come out for a festival. They come out for ACL Fest, or they come out for South by, and then they're hooked. And it's so easy to get hooked. You get a little barbecue in you and you can't move, so you just want to stay.
Yeah. And shout out to Katie Day. So we'll actually you're going to be in Houston, right? Next month?
Yep. April.
So I'll see you out there. I'm really excited for that. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Austin and San Diego actually, in a lot of ways, have kind of similar cultures.
Yeah, very similar.
Way different in a lot of ways, but also, if that makes any sense, they're different in a lot of ways, but also similar at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, super laid back, really good food. Politically, I feel like kind of similar now. And
yeah, what's interesting is you have, I always use a website to explain this better than I say it, but there's a website called bestplaces.net, and you can actually go in there and look at the political affiliation leaning of a certain city. It's interesting because Austin is surrounded by, opposite of what it is. And so it kind of
Mhm.
levels itself out a little bit. So if you don't want to be in the crazy or the weird of Austin, you can just step outside and you're like, oh, okay, I'm back in this town. So, and plus it's beautiful. So
Yeah. All right, let's see what some of our friends here are saying. Misha Thompson just wanted to shout out the sexy man on the right hand side. So there we go.
yeah,
Get one of
I think
those.
you're stage left, right? Or stage right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm stage left, so you're stage right. There
Okay,
we go.
perfect. Hey, Misha.
Ramsey is calling in from Missouri. Ramsey, what's going on, my man? Uh,
Yeah.
apparently, Jeremy, I made you very uncomfortable. I'm sorry to make you take your sweatshirt off.
Yeah, it was getting so hot in here, it's so cold in Austin. It's 33 degrees, I think, somewhere around there.
Yikes. Yeah, it is a chilly 68 here in San Diego, and so I'm bundled up with my
How do you
hoodie.
deal with that, man? That's the
It's
one thing. I could not deal with that San Diego weather.
yeah, it's
Is
brutal.
that girl on Fox 5 still there, Chrissy, the weather girl?
Do you still watch cable? I don't watch cable still, so
No.
I'm going to say probably yes, but I don't.
So I used to work at the Costco there in Mission Valley, and Chrissy, who was on the news, I literally watch her in the morning, like walk through and you go to break, and then the weather girl comes on, and 30 minutes later she'd walk through the door at Costco. So I'd always go, let me guess, the weather in Austin today is going to be 70 and sunny, and she's like, nailed it, like every time. So it was our kind of inside joke every time I'd see her. But
That's funny.
yeah, it's a cool 35 right now.
Yep. I mean, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Will saying hello. What's going on, Will? Coming out of
So Will,
Montana. I wonder how many people are moving from San Diego to Montana. I
probably
mean, it
not as
can't be.
many as moving to Austin.
I mean, if you look at the population of all the states,
Yeah.
like there are 22 states that have a smaller population than San Diego County of 3.3 million people, which is just completely crazy.
That is, yeah.
All right, well let's take a look at some of these articles I pulled up here, if I can. There we go. So a new study finds reports of a mass exodus from California have been greatly exaggerated.
Mhm.
I think what's going on here is in 2020, for the first time in history, California population declined. If you actually look at the numbers, it's it wasn't a significant decline, but it was the first year that the population numbers did not increase. When you really dial into it and really looking to see what's happening, and this is kind of what this report is getting into, and I don't remember exactly where it says it, but they're basically saying that California as a whole, it wasn't seeing a population decrease. And even the population decrease that was happening was minimal, but a majority of it was happening from the Bay Area and happening from LA. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, a net loss is still a net loss. So you lost people, but it's kind of tough. Like I agree that net loss. I think there was Senate seats lost or something like that as well because of the net loss. So yeah, there's definitely a migration out. It's kind of hard to cover it up, no matter how you want to spin it in an article. You're losing people.
Yeah.
And part of that, though, and I don't know if this article spoke about it, it could be attributed to not as many births as well. So you're seeing more people moving than those being born. So, but that's nationwide. We're down in actual births, and there's channels out there saying the market's going to crash because we're losing population. We're losing population. Not enough people are being born. The one major fallacy in that thought is why, because they're saying the market's going to crash right now.
Yeah.
Somebody being born right now isn't going to buy a home until really the average age of 33. We have more people in the 33-year-old age. That's why there's still so much demand. That 30 to 40 age group, there's so many people in that group is why we're in this demand. So yeah, in like 20 years, we might actually see a huge decline in prices in homes. But right now you're not. So sell your home in 15 years, maybe. Don't listen to me. But that could be a problem in the future. But this year, next year, if you want to say the market's crashing for those reasons, I think you're grasping at straws.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if you look at like even if people are having fewer kids now, they still need that extra bedroom or two because they're working from home.
Exactly.
So it's like we need bigger and bigger houses to accommodate this different type of lifestyle that we're living. And I think that's a big part of what I like when I'm looking at the population decline in California and where it's coming from. It's a lot of it's coming from the big cities, people wanting to get out of the big cities and having the ability to work remote, which is something that has not been around for a long period of time. And so that's what I find a lot of the people, because we get a lot of people moving to San Diego from the Bay Area as well. It's like one of the biggest places. In fact, if I look at, I can pull up this migration stats again for that. And it's because they can work remote. They can work wherever they want and they're still making Bay Area money. So why not live somewhere with a little bit more affordability here or a lot more affordability in Austin?
And let's be honest, for those people that actually want to live in the Bay Area, you might be a little loony. And I love you for moving to Austin, but look, the Bay Area is way cold all the time, right? It's in the 50s most of the time, most of the year, unless you live in inland and then it gets in the hundreds. But if you live in San Diego, it's like 70 and sunny. It's like LA weather. So would you rather live in San Diego or LA over the Bay Area? I would in a heartbeat. Anytime when I left, so I originally grew up in Central California, like near Bakersfield. So that's why I have a wonderful love for hating Bakersfield. But when I lived in Phoenix,
the armpit of California, you know?
Oh my gosh. I grew up in Visalia. Shout out Visalia, California, Tulare Union. We were the Redskins. I don't even know what we are now. Tribe, I think, something like that. So yeah, but when I was moving back to California from Phoenix, I was like, I'm not living in Central Valley. I'm not going back there. You'd have to kill me first. And I'm not going to the Bay Area. So where do I go? It was San Diego, of course. So it's kind of like the same thought process I was going through when I moved to Texas was I really don't want to live in Dallas. Dallas is great, but I could just move to LA. Yeah, it costs more, but I could just, if I wanted to live that lifestyle, I could just move to LA. Houston, let's just be honest, Houston's atrocious. It is so humid and gross there. Plus, you get hurricanes. I mean, I love Houston. You know, they're my people. They're Texas, but man, I hate Houston.
Well, we're gonna change the name of this. I was about to call it a podcast. This YouTube Live. Yeah. We're gonna change the name of it to what states and what cities do we hate the most? Because that's seems to be a hot topic here today.
But if you're leaving San Diego or LA or one of these areas and you're moving for more affordable homes, right? The median and the San Diego's around 700,000. The median in Austin's like really a 550. It's hard to find something for 550. But if you're looking in that 300 price point to 400, you're going to Houston, you're going to San Antonio, maybe Dallas, but I think it'd be hard to find something in Dallas too. So you're going into those areas, not necessarily Austin, but if you're wanting to live that hill country lifestyle and find something in that, it's going to be hard, but 400 to 500 range. Mm-hmm. Like you're living, you know, on 45 minutes outside of Austin. New Braunfels, great place. I love New Braunfels.
Yeah. Yeah. Median detached property in San Diego County is probably around 900 right now. I know it was creeping up. And I mean, there's no doubt that's the number one reason people leave San Diego right now is because they want to afford a home and they can't afford it here, or they want to upside, you know, get a larger home for a growing family and they just can't find the value here. So that makes sense. And that's why, you know, a lot of people are moving from San Diego to Austin, but also to, you know, Phoenix, Arizona, one of your other favorite places, and just like other places that are kind of close, so you can get a little bit more affordability. It's also funny that to hear people from the Bay Area come down and say, you know, that it's affordable here when
it's all relative, right?
It is. Yeah. I always kind of crack up that, like, no matter where you go, if there's a nice place, they always, and housing prices are going up, people always blame it on Californians. Is that kind of what you get out there?
Oh yeah. And well, even when I moved here in 2013, it was like, oh, Californian. And then, you know, you start having actual conversations with people, and people are, you know, they like to give people a hard time here. But the craziest thing about this place is you move out here and you start having a nice conversation and you get offered beer everywhere you go. It's amazing. Like when I was selling real estate, I'd go door knock doors, right? And every single time I would go thirsty because I knew somebody was going to hand me a beer. Every single time. I like without fail, somebody's like, "Hey, do you want a beer? You want a Lone Star?" Like every single time. So yeah, that's the charm of living in the area.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. All right, what else we got here? -10 in Montana. Will, and you're still
That's,
getting your videos out, man. I like that. That's well done. That is
yeah,
dedication.
you need a green screen to do that in Montana.
85 in Warner Robins and probably 100% humidity, which I would not appreciate.
Yeah, yeah. Georgia's nice though, right? Warner Roberts is Georgia, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yep. And then you got Ramsey here. He's trying to start up a fight. He wants to talk about barbecue. We'll get into Mexican food next. Don't you worry. We're going to talk about who has the best Mexican food. But he wants to claim Kansas City has better barbecue than Austin. How do you feel about that, Jeremy?
I think somebody needs to go check on Ramsey. I think he needs some help.
Sorry, Ramsey.
Yeah, sorry, Ramsey. Apparently. Yeah, I mean, look, I've had barbecue all over, and yeah, Texas just does it the right way.
All right, so Ebonk, am I saying that right? Ebonk? I moved to San Diego from Austin, Texas last month. All right, so a reverse of what a lot of us are seeing. Was surprised about gas, electricity, and rent prices. Yes, there's no question about that.
So I wonder, was it he was surprised about the prices in here in Texas or Austin with electricity and gas? Because gas right now is about $3 a gallon. I wouldn't know because I drove Tesla. You know, I got that smug cloud above me, so we're good there. Yeah, rent prices are definitely high. Electricity is not cheap because it does get hot. Whereas like in San Diego, you're not using your AC as much. So yeah, your cost is going to be a little bit higher.
Now, so you said gas is around $3 a gallon right now?
Yeah.
So out here that
was yesterday, and today it's a different story. I haven't been out of the house today, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're breaching $5 right now. And a lot of that is, when the gas prices went down, I want to say in like 2018, 2019, they got really low. Then California kind of they slyly passed some gas tax that bumped it up by about $1. So you can look at what we're paying at the pump, and a pretty good chunk of that is actually taxes. And then now they're trying to figure out, all right, how do we, with the emergence of electric vehicles and Tesla people, how do we start charging them for driving on the road? And so they're trying to impose mileage tax for driving here. They still haven't figured out how the heck they're going to do it, because you can track someone and where they are going, but how do you know if they're actually driving a vehicle or not? And you can just track their mileage, but what happens if they go out of San Diego? They can't charge them for that. So
it's interesting because I've never found that throwing more money at a problem fixes it. And I think the problem in California is just throw more money at it. It'll fix it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you on that. What about electricity? I know you've been having, Austin's been having issues with electricity recently, right?
It's one of those things that I think is blown really out of proportion. It's the same thing as the net migration in California. Wherever they can make a story, they make a story. What's interesting is they tell you about the power going out 1 or 2 times in Texas because of the storm, which was a massive storm that we were not prepared for. We're not prepared for storms at all. Even today, we had some ice come through, and they closed down schools because they just want people out on the road. So the thing with that is, we had a major issue with it. This year has not been as bad. I think it was overblown for the most part. The sad thing is that there was people that had really huge bills, right? Because they're on that next, what is it called? Where you have a flexible plan. So your prices can go up and they can fluctuate what they're charging you. But for the most part, all of Austin is on one fixed. So if you're on one of those areas it's not fixed, then that's definitely not good. So you gotta have to find a provider that's going to be cheap.
Yeah, we've been having some issues out here in San Diego as well. We are, we're on solar now, so it's not affecting us as much. But I've seen basically the start of this year, the way that they charge people through SDG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric. Some bills have almost doubled. Just outrageous how high they've gone up. And there's some major issues there that need to be settled out. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to talk about the brownouts in California. They want to talk about the one time the power went out in Texas. So,
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. There's that. Okay, and then what about rent prices? What are rent prices like out in Austin? I know you're not
yeah,
as
yeah,
on top of the rental market, just like me out here, but
yeah. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm on top of the market, but I pay attention to it just because there's a lot of people that say that rent prices. Well, I help a lot of investors as well, so that's
yeah.
partly why I understand what's going on. So, like the average out here is about 1,800 for a two bedroom, which isn't that bad. I can tell you, if you had a little 3 bedroom, two house to rent out here, you're looking at like 26 to 3,000 a month. I just got so I had a client friend of mine who just sold his business in LA. They had a business in LA, moved here. When they moved here, they ended up selling it. Very popular. If you'll see it on Instagram. Anyway, we just bought they just bought a house in my neighborhood, and it was like 735. It was an investment property, and what's crazy is we rented that thing out on a short-term rent, fully furnished,
Hmm.
for like 5,500 a month, and that was the short term was 10 months. So it
Okay.
wasn't like really short term, but yeah, so fully furnished 5,500 a month. So it's not cheap out here.
Yeah, it's getting pricey out here. I mean, there's no question about that. And I tend to see that like rental prices will kind of lag behind home sale prices a little bit.
Yeah, it's
So when
definitely a lagging indicator. So for
yeah,
those people out there saying the market's crashing because rent prices aren't catching up, they are rapidly catching up.
they're rapidly catching it. The amount rent has risen in San Diego County in the last 12 months is crazy.
Yeah,
And just like you, I mean, I have a little bit of I have a bit of an idea about rental prices, but I don't have my finger on the pulse quite like I do with home sales. But I mean, if you want a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house in a decent neighborhood to rent, you're looking at around $35 to $4,000 a month at
yeah.
least. And really depending on what neighborhood, if you want to be in the really nice school districts, you can bump it up to
Oh
$5,000
yeah.
or 5,500
And
bucks a
that's the
month.
same thing with Austin. I mean, my neighborhood on average for a two-story, like 2,600 square feet on average is renting about $1 a square foot.
Okay.
So really, around 2,000 square feet, you're renting for about $1.10 to $1.15 a square foot, which is pretty high for the square foot. So, and sometimes I'm seeing it a lot higher. I mean, I'm renting a 1,900 square foot 3.2 for 2,600 a month. So not bad. That's one of my
Not-
rentals here.
It's not bad at all.
Mm.
All right. D Park almost sounds like it's my cousin or something. D
I
Park,
feel like
16.
I feel like when you say this, you can go deep park, like
D
that.
Park in the house.
Oh
And
man,
one
he's
of
a
those
kid.
people gave up on trying to move to San Diego and secured a home in Phoenix at the top of 2022. Had to take that moment to determine the next vibe. Hey, man, good for you getting in the
Yeah.
housing market. I really think we are at a time right now where it's just, you know, you can't just have your money sitting in a bank account. You need to be investing in something, whether it's stocks or whether it's real estate, because inflation is happening at such a
Gold,
rapid pace. So good for
crypto.
you for taking an opportunity to get into the market.
Yeah, here's a tough thing is when I left San Diego, I really wanted to move back to Phoenix. I love Phoenix. And so my wife's from Texas. So it was like, and her family's from El Paso. If you've ever been to El Paso, people there are fantastic. That's about it. So I love El Paso because we have family there, but it was like, do I move to El Paso or move somewhere fun like Austin? So Austin won, but I miss
It's
Phoenix.
I mean, you made a good choice, man. You
Yeah.
made a good choice.
Yeah.
All right. So Misha said his electricity costs went nuts this year. So again, Warner Robins, Georgia, he's going to put solar on the roof, $400 electricity bill. Well, it's because your houses are like 18,000 square feet or something crazy like that. All brick. I mean, there's no insulation in
Yeah.
that.
Is it Michael Jordan's house in Georgia or am I totally off?
Misha, let us know. Is Michael
Yeah.
Jordan's house
Or
out there? We're trying to
yeah.
figure.
Yeah.
All right. So Jeremy, I would think that you probably agree with JC here. What do you think? This is
I
the
mean,
reason why people are leaving California.
yeah, I mean, I have no more comment. I feel like it's right there on the page.
So, we're not going to get too much into politics or crime.
Not a, I won't do it on my
Obviously,
channel, but your channel, it's fair game. So, I mean, I'll just go, let's go in the paint right now.
smart. That's real smart.
Your channel, not mine. Yeah.
We definitely talked about unaffordability. We definitely talked about taxation.
So
Yeah,
here's the one thing about taxes, though, for Texas. And so this is the one thing that gets missed, and I see this, as moving to Texas Facebook groups all the time. And it goes back a little bit to the cost of gas, electricity, and rent from Ebunk there. But one thing people don't understand and they just can't wrap their minds around is the property tax and how that works in
yeah.
Texas. So this is really important if you are like, hey, I'm going to move, I have a house in that Dan's going to sell of mine that's 1.5 million. I'm paying 20 grand a year in property taxes on it because they tax it at 1.3%. What 0.8% fixed or whatever you do there, Dan? What's the tax?
For the property tax is going to
Yeah.
be, so the state tax is 1%, and then whatever city you're living in is going to be a little bit on top of that. So in San Diego, somewhere around 1.2, 1.3 is pretty standard.
Okay, 1.3. Yeah, so I was right there. So 1.3, and then if you have a Melrose, right? So then you got to pay off your Melrose. So when you move to Austin specifically, but Texas in general, so every year your taxes aren't actually fixed. So, and they don't work on when you buy the home, right? So every year, if you bought a home in California, they reassess your taxes then, and then they move forward. Well, it doesn't matter if you buy the home whenever, they're reassessed every single year. So the way they do it, and this absolutely needs to be changed. But so let's say you buy a house for $500,000, right? So, and the tax rate on the property is 2.25%. So roughly you're going to have like $15,000 in taxes, right? 2.2% tax rate. Now, if you go into a new build home and you buy a new build home, most of those have what's called a MUD tax, which is very similar to a Melrose tax. So they're, it's a think about them as almost the same. So now you're paying 3.1% or 2.9%. So now you're paying almost $20,000 in taxes on a $500,000 home. But here's what happens. So next year, annually, right? So next year they go, okay, so the market's been crazy. We're reassessing the value of your house at 550,000. So that means your new taxes is this. So they go off that tax rate. So you can homestead your house, but if you're an investor, you can't. Homestead caps how much they can raise it. So they can raise it by up to 20% or it's 10% per year. So they can raise your taxes they can say now it's 550, but we're raising your taxes 10%. Now next year we're raising them 10%, the year after 10%. And so it happens with some people. And this is why I talk about this topic so much on my channels. I didn't know much about how taxes work when I moved out here. So when I got my initial payment, I was like, sweet, I'm going to be paying $5,000 a year in taxes. I paid $275 for a house. Sweet. Next year I'm paying $6,000 in taxes. The heck, that raises my mortgage, almost $100 bucks a month. Like what the hell?
How do you plan for that?
Yeah. How do you plan for that? And then the next year it went up again. And then it went up again and went up again. And so you have to spend money protesting your taxes every single year. So you can do it yourself or you can pay a company. So I usually pay a company. And so a company will come out, they'll go to the city and go, oh, his taxes aren't that expensive or his house isn't worth that much. And they try to negotiate it down and you pay him a fee. So every year, either going to pay a fee or just eat it and pay more in taxes. And, the idea is, oh, well, if the market goes down, the assessment of your house goes down, then they'll drop the taxes. I've only seen it been level once, and that's because the city of Austin was paying our TCAD, which is the Travis County Tax District, was paying CoreLogic, who supplies our MLS, to give them the MLS data. Now we're a non-disclosure state, so I could pay my house for $1 million, but if they value it at 100,000, they don't know what I paid for it. So CoreLogic was giving sold data to and selling sold data to Travis County. And all of a sudden, all the comps for my homes were 100% right. I'm like, how does the county have this? And so we figured it out and sued them. So now they're having to go a roundabout way to pull that data. But every year they're trying to find out what the value of your home is based on what's sold. And they're going to raise your taxes every single year. So that's something people don't really understand and fully grasp. So if you're leaving California going, sweet, I was paying 20 grand a year in property taxes. I'm only going to pay 15 grand a year over here. Perfect. That's fine because I bought a $500,000 house. I'm saving because I'm not paying that $15,000 a year in income tax. And all of a sudden, your energy costs are a little higher because you run your AC. So you're like, okay, my bills are a little more expensive. That's fine. But I'm saving gas. That's great. But then you go, oh, by the way, taxes went up 5 grand. Taxes are going up next year. They're going up next year. And after a while, you're like, damn, this isn't as affordable as I thought it was. So it's something people really need to understand. It's not as affordable as people think it is.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize all that about the taxes out there. And I mean, we can probably dig in this a little bit. This is one of the major benefits of like longevity of living in California for a long period of time, or specifically living at a specific house, or, you know, once you reach a certain age, moving from one home to another in California. There's some crazy tax benefits. But one of the things to keep in mind that people don't really realize when they're looking at homes out here is they'll search on Redfin and they'll look and see what the taxes are on a specific home for sale. Well, what you don't realize is they're pulling that the tax records from what the current homeowner is paying for that house, not what it would be valued at when you purchase the house.
When you purchase
a house. Well, I guess I could take one more step back and say, you know, every single year your property tax can only go up 3% in California. So if the housing market goes up 20%, like it did in the last 12 months, your property tax only increases 3%. So you can imagine owning a home for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, how much of an impact this will have on the savings for you with property taxes. So you could be looking at a house that someone purchased 20 years ago and looking at their property tax and saying, oh, great, I could definitely afford this. But you have to realize it's going to be reassessed on the purchase price, and it's going to be around 1.2 to 1.3% of the purchase price is what you're going to be paying annually. But one of the other big benefits you can get in California is if you are over the age of 55 and you sell your house and purchase another house, you have an opportunity to move your property tax over to that new property. And there's some new rules that came out around this, but it really, really gives you a massive benefit of staying in California as opposed to moving somewhere else if you have $3 million or $1 million or $2 million or $3 million in property.
And I think that's what's causing or is part of our problem with inventory this year, and why we might see more inventory further down the road this year. Because people, if your property taxes go up about 10%, you're going to protest it. That sucks. But if you bought a home before really 2020, the end of 2021, you got, a 3.2 interest rate, 2.78, 2.5 interest rate on your home. So even though the taxes are going up a little bit, you're still good because it's such a low interest rate. Buying a home this year, paying, I'm waiting for an investment property to close that I've been building for over a year. And, when I put that house under contract, the tax rate, or not, the interest rate was like 2.325 for an investor loan. Now it's like 4.5%.
Yeah.
So, there's issues there, but I think what we'll see in Texas, and why I think that we'll see more inventory around the June timeframe. And I think this will, if you look at our prices last year, from January till June, we saw this rocket ship pricing go from 455 as our median up to 575. I mean, that's a huge jump, like almost $120,000 increase in that short amount of time. But then it leveled off and then dropped down. And I think we'll see that same thing this year, because I think a lot of people will get those property tax bills around like late April, and they're gonna oh my God, I can't afford this. This is out of control, and they'll put their house in the market. But where do they go? They're going to have to probably end up going and renting because there's nowhere to sell. So you're either stuck in a position where you have to eat the fact your taxes are going up, your property taxes are going up, because really there's nowhere affordable to move in Austin anymore. So so it's like a double-edged sword. Will we see more inventory? Probably, but will we see as much as we should have? Probably not, because where do you go? And that's a problem we'll see.
How is the market for you right now? Because out here, this is, I thought this time last year was going to be the toughest buyer's market that I would ever see. I genuinely thought that. Yeah. And I can tell you it's tougher. I've had so many tough conversations with my buyers. I just, in a situation today where we put an offer on a house, and granted, it was a very expensive house, and they haven't even sent out counteroffers yet, and they're already well over $400,000 over the purchase price.
400,000.
$400,000 over the purchase price. And this time last year, people were waiving appraisals. This time this year, we're getting beat out by offers that are waiving every contingency.
Yeah.
And it's just bonkers. Is that kind of what it's like out there? Like, how is it getting out there right now?
Yeah, it's funny is I just had an agent email me say, "Hey, the appraisal didn't come back at value. Will you drop the price?" I'm like, "What? No. Good luck. Good luck with that." But yeah, no. What's interesting about California, and I think it's a California thing with the escalation on a loan, on a offer. We don't have escalations, so you can't just say like, "Okay, I'm going to put in $1 million offer, escalated up to 1.25," right?
So we will beat out any other offers by $10,000 up to whatever point.
So what we do, and I have a lot of, thankfully I have more listings right now than buyers I'm currently working with. But what we're doing is just say, we'll put it on the market on Thursday. We ask for highest and best offer by Tuesday. And I have a lot of agents that call me all weekend, all day Sunday. Well, where do we need to be? And I'm, like, okay, we're about, 8% over right now. So you're going to have to think about that and have your clients go there. We're at 10% over now. Don't even bother if you're not going to be at minimum 10% over. Some people like that. Some people don't. I'd rather not have 40 offers on a property and have 5 that are close versus like you have all these list price offers. Like, why are you even writing this offer when I've told you there's offers well over this? I mean, you can put it in, but you're just wasting everybody's time. And it's tough that we're in that market,
Yeah, it's really tough. And yes, there are escalation clauses out here, but I will say the probably majority of real estate agents that have listings out here are very anti-escalation clauses.
Good. Okay, good.
So sometimes even if you use an escalation clause and you beat out other offers, they'll still encourage their buyers or their sellers to select another offer. And so they'll even write it into multiple counteroffers saying there will not be any escalation clauses. I see all sorts of things like that. So it sounds like a great strategy and it sounds like a silver bullet, but it's not. It's not, especially when you're dealing with other escalation clauses. It starts to get real messy. So yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing. It makes it tough, but I can't believe you guys can't do that out there. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Texas thing. I mean, and the way our contracts are written is a little bit different too. It's all promulgated, so you have one set of documents, nothing else. So you can't write a real estate contract on something that's not on one of these promulgated forms.
Interesting. I did want to pull this up. Did you see this, Jeremy? San Diego is now ranked as the least affordable city in the U.S. to buy a home.
How far away is Austin from that?
So, and I'll preface by saying San Diego is not the most expensive city. There are plenty of cities that are way more expensive than San Diego, but it's rising. What this is looking at is median household income versus the median price home. And so we basically have the biggest gap. Our median household income is like around $70,000. You can probably find it on here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course I can't find. $79,000. And this, from when they did this, the median price home was $764. It's damn near 900 now. So, it makes it tough for people to afford.
I feel like if you're somebody that bought a house for like, $400,000 or $500,000 back in like 2016, 15, 16, and now you're like, okay, I have a lot of equity in this house, but I have nowhere else to go. And it was affordable to you then, you're not moving. And so that might also impact that number as well. Because if you have people that have been making about the same, even though prices are higher, doesn't necessarily mean, and that people are still working. So prices have gone up, their wages haven't gone up, but if they're already in a home, then what's the difference? But if you've rented that entire time, now it's a lot harder. You're looking at moving to Phoenix. You're looking at moving to San Antonio, Austin. But here's the interesting thing. So the adage has always been that Austin's so expensive as well because, the price of homes is so expensive compared to Dallas. Up until 2021, Austin was actually more affordable, believe it or not, than Dallas, even though Dallas had lower prices because our median income was much higher. And if you look at all the jobs that are coming to Austin, a lot of them are like low level tech jobs that are, your base is 80 grand a year. And if you got two, if you're as my good friend is a dink, dual incomes, no children, and you're making 160 combined, and you got a lot of room to grow. But if you're a 5-person family making 80 grand a year, it's a lot tougher. But
Yeah.
so that's why we're seeing a lot of growth outside. In fact, if you look at any charts about Austin, the growth is not Austin itself. In fact, right now there's only 15,000 buildable acres in Austin. So if you want to build something, that's why land value is so expensive, is there's only 15,000 available buildable acres left in Austin. So everybody's moving outside of Austin. The problem with Austin is that our infrastructure is atrocious. So it's like I used to live near Chula Vista and had to drive to Mission Valley every day down the 805. Oh, it's brutal. It was brutal. It was the worst. It's just like that every day in Austin now.
Wow. Now, you say you have to look outside of Austin, but when I think of Austin and I think of outside of Austin, I still think that it only takes 15 minutes to get to the city center. Is that kind of accurate, or is that not really how it works?
Yeah, it used to be, but now everybody moved during the pandemic and there wasn't as much traffic during the pandemic. It's like, oh, this traffic's not bad. And now it's bad. Like every time I go, I'm like, oh, what used to be a 15-minute drive, I just estimate it to be 30 minutes. I leave, what you used to be, oh, it's a 15-minute drive. Mm-hmm. I literally plan 30 minutes for everything now just because I don't know. But so people are moving outside of Austin for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's not as many new construction homes in Austin. So if you're looking for a little bit newer of a home, you actually have to move outside. If you're looking for a little bit more affordable being 600 and under, then you're looking outside of Austin as well. So you're looking Kyle, if you're going south, I mentioned New Braunfels, which is about 45 minutes. But they're looking Kyle, Buda. There's a lot of new areas like Manor, like just west. A lot of people are going, east because Tesla's on the east side. Everybody's trying to invest east because you're going to have a lot of people renting out there, buying out there. The east side of Austin is definitely an opportunity zone. So if you're looking for investments, I recommend South Austin, East Austin, and Northeast Austin. Everybody's like, oh, I want to be next to all the tech corridor, North Austin. No, you can get a much better value, bang for your buck further out.
And that's why if you're looking to move to Austin, Jeremy Knight's your guy because he knows all the secrets. All the secrets.
That's true.
Misha Thompson from before I falsely claimed that his house was 18,000.
Look, you were only off by 15,000 square feet. It's not like a lot.
And I know we were asking about Michael Jordan living there. He just did some research on celebrities living in his area. So The Rock and Ludacris have some homes out there. But he would not be surprised if Jordan had one near Augusta because of his golf addiction.
Yeah. I heard that living next to Augusta isn't actually that nice. Like the area around it's really not that nice. But like on the course, it's
never been.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I went to South Carolina and met with a lot of people from Georgia at that event.
So, Jeremy, we went over a lot today. Is there, what else do we need to cover? Mass exodus from California. I think we're saying that it is, people are leaving, but it's probably blown out of proportion. There certainly are a lot of people moving to Austin, but there's also a lot of people moving from LA and San Francisco to San Diego. So we're seeing it in both areas. A lot coming to Austin, though, and it is pretty interesting.
There's just a lot of migration in general. I think without 2020, we probably would have seen a lot of movement without all the craziness from the pandemic. I think the pandemic just put people's priorities in, like people's priorities changed. And so that's why we're seeing this migration where people are like, hey, I'm okay living a little bit further outside of Austin. I'm okay living further outside of an area, and I don't have to live close to LA. I don't have to live in downtown San Francisco. So there's a lot of movement. In fact, but here's the thing that's interesting is like everybody's moving to Austin, right? But we have a lot of people moving to Florida. So there's a lot of people that are here that are moving even further east. So
from Austin to Florida.
Yeah.
What's
because here's the thing.
Live in Florida. Let's trash some more places real quick. Who wants to live in Florida? I want to know this.
I would live in. Here's the deal. So I went and I've gone a few times to Florida, and it's nice, right? Depending on where you're going, it's nice. But I have a beach property on the Texas coast. I would much rather go to my Texas coast property versus go all the way to Florida. I mean, nothing against Florida. It's 5-hour drive versus getting on a plane, flying, spending a lot more money when I got a beach house down here. So, and that's the advantage of being in Texas. You sell your $2 million. What did that house sell for the other day that you were put on your Instagram? $3.4 million home. You come over, you get a decent house in Eanes ISD, which is right next to the lake, for $2.5 million. Then you buy $1 million coast property, and you're set. You're set for life.
As long as you don't need good Mexican food and you don't need that in your life, then you can have everything you want in Austin.
Listen,
I mean, that's
calm down. All right, look. All right,
and
don't ruffle the feathers on. Look, okay. So I think the Austin food scene's blown out of proportion. I've said this on my channel several times. It is changing. I think it's getting better, but the one thing Austin does a very, very, very good job on is ambiance. So you go to a place for the ambiance and the drinks, the cold drinks, and then the food's the side appetizer to what's going on, right? And so that's why these people that like go, oh, I went to this place and the food sucks, but it was such a great place, so I'm still giving it a 5-star because it was so cool. It's like, well, the food sucks. Like there's a great place that's up on the lake called the Oasis. The food, I'm sorry, Oasis, but you need to hire somebody else. The food is not great. The drinks aren't really even that great, but it's a great view. So the ambiance, 4 stars. Ambiance is great. Nothing else about it. So the Mexican food here could definitely change. But there is something about the taco culture. I love the taco culture. I love the barbecue. And when you infuse barbecue and taco culture, it's like heaven right there. So that's, I mean, where's your barbecue tacos, huh? Where's your barbecue tacos in San Diego? Let's go.
All I can tell you is we're not putting cold eggs onto tortillas and calling it a breakfast taco. Okay. Like who should do that? That's all right. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Our buddy Justin Conoco, I think he's talking about Jeremy Knight, the superstar.
Hi, Justin.
And then Ross is saying, seems like 15 to 20% of cars and license plate he's seeing here in the Seattle area are from California. What do you think? Every home in California is empty. You know, what's interesting is Seattle is one of the top.
They're moving here.
Are looking to move to San Diego and into Austin. So I think just like Jeremy was saying, this is bringing it full circle for us, Jeremy, is that people are there's a lot of migration going on right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, similar types of cities, Austin, Seattle, Portland, San Diego. There's a lot of people moving from one to the other right now.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of people move from Seattle here, a lot. And what's interesting is I always tell clients that are moving here, the first thing you do when you get to Texas is get your license plates changed and your driver's license changed.
Yep.
Just immediately you have to do that. Like, even if it costs you more to get it done soon, like just get it done. You'll have a much better drive down Mopac.
Yeah, I heard about that. Our friends moved to Bozeman, Montana, and that was like everyone told her real estate agent told her, first thing you do, you got to change the plates.
Yeah.
you just got to do it. You can't have it. You can't stick out like a sore thumb like that.
Nobody pays attention to a clean, brand new Texas plate, but they pay attention to a dirty California plate, right? Even if the California plate's clean, just like I'm saying, it's dirty because you drove all the way over here. But change it as quick as you can. And word of advice, anybody leaving, start just practicing this and you'll fit in really well. So here's the starter pack. If you're going to move to Texas, here's the starter pack.
I'm very excited.
Number one, stop saying you guys or hella and just start saying y'all, and you'll save yourself a lot of headache. That's number one.
Say hella anymore? Is that really a thing?
Hey, they say it hella in the Bay Area. Okay. So number two, go get yourself, and I did a video this morning and I put it on my Instagram channel. Go get yourself anything UT. You don't have to be a UT fan, but you'll just fit in instantly. Go over, get yourself a nice Yeti and just walk around with that. You don't even have to have anything in it. And just those 3 things, and you'll be on the right path for sure.
All right, y'all. Well, I got my Yeti here, and I think it's about time.
We've turned him Texan.
Jeremy Knight, I really appreciate you being on and spending some time away to chat with us about people leaving California and going to Texas.
Hit that one right there by Spain Lord.
All right.
That's a good one.
The Spaniard. He's
Oh,
a
Spaniard.
local here.
I thought it was an L. Okay.
All right. You
So
want to go
yeah,
for this?
I'll read it. Yeah. Was in Austin a few months ago. Never saw so many homeless. The rest of that in my life, maybe more than California. Okay. So here's what happened. Just real quick story. So our mayor and city council decided to say you can't crack down on being homeless by allowing people just to camp everywhere. So they took off the camping ban. The voters, as of last year, came back and voted and said, no, we want the camping ban back in place. So there's been a huge push to get a lot of these people rehoused and clean up a lot of what you saw a few months ago. So if you were there a few months ago, coming here now, it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect. And there's a lot still needs to happen, but it is a 180-degree turn from what you probably saw a few months ago.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's, I mean, major issue here. The amount of people living on the streets in droves, and sad. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. And there's a really cool,
say this.
I'll say this. There's a really cool community, and I've donated so much time and energy to help them. It's called Community First Village, and they've done a really good job of housing people, and they build, tiny homes out there and create a community. It's a fantastic nonprofit charity. So, but yeah, I love the smell of barbecue 24/7 in the air. That's all we smell. If you don't smell barbecue in the air around here, you instantly get worried something's wrong. So yeah.
You're in a bad street if you can't smell.
Yeah, you're on the wrong tree if you can't smell barbecue. You've gone too far away from the center. Just turn around and go back.
Well, Jeremy Knight, thank you so much, my man. Anyone watching, if you were looking or considering a move to Austin, Texas, or considering investing in Austin, Texas, Jeremy's your guy. I have his channel in my description down below, but you can also just search Jeremy Knight, and I'm sure his name will pop up.
Yeah, for sure. Google loves me.
Awesome. Any last thoughts, Jeremy?
Put pen to paper and make sure it makes sense before you move.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Have a great night.